Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here today, my name is Audrey. My cat Casey is wandering in the background, and I have a very special guest today who would love to introduce
Yeah.
herself. And we're going to be talking about desmoid tumors, since this is a follow up to a video that I did, and I did not really expect to get as much traction as it did, which is awesome since it is a very rare thing, which we're like one in a million, which is delightful. So I think we could probably just, if you want to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your experience with them, since I think I've talked about my experience a little bit, and then we can go from there.
So yeah, my name is Emily OBrien, and I have intra-abdominal tumors, or basically the abdominal tumors. I have two, but there's a third lump that is currently going to be checked out. And I also have another lump on my leg that needs to be checked out, that are both giving me the same kind of pain as a tumor, but they're slightly softer. So my case is still kind of, how do I say, still being looked at. And I'm on watching weight, and I have been the past 6-7 years.
That's one thing that I think is interesting to kind of talk about, is the differences between, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about obviously how doctors, since it is rare, I know doctors don't always want to believe people, especially women. Doctors don't want to believe women with the pain that they're going through. But I think especially too about the differences between the healthcare. The U.S. healthcare system is horrible in the fact that you have to pay for like every little thing. Insurance doesn't really want to cover things. My biggest struggle was like with the medication and stuff that they did prescribe me with, which I'm lucky that they did have treatments for. Just insurance doesn't want to cover it. So it was just like being on the phone for like 3 hours a day, every single day for weeks, trying to get, the insurance and the doctors and the pharmacy to come together and pay for things. So I'm kind of interested in, because you're in the Republic of Ireland, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So how exactly is watch and wait kind of what they have as the treatment?
we have very, very, very little. Literally radiation, chemo. That's it. And they ruled out both for me. There's no trial treatments whatsoever. I think I looked a little bit into. I think the HSE is kind of against cryoablation, and you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong. I have to look it up again, but I think they think there's dangers with it or something. But with the HSE here, I find that anytime there's anything that works for something, it could be anything, they go, nope, not happening, and they make up a little excuse not to have it as a treatment.
Right. I think, obviously, because I deal with a completely different healthcare system, but kind of from what I've seen with several friends, who use like very different, other European countries, their healthcare systems. Yes, it's absolutely fantastic that for the most part you don't really have to pay for healthcare. It's included in your taxes. However, from experience and from what I've heard from people who have even like cancers and other sort of serious diseases, it's a lot of the time, if they're wealthy enough, which is unfortunate, they come to the US because we do have better treatment in that regard, because you have to pay so much out of your pocket. So from what I've kind of gathered, is it just appears that these countries don't want to offer these unless you need it, because they have to pay for it. Essentially, they're the ones forking the bill, even though it's kind of coming through your taxes, versus like, if they throw me like a $2,000 bill that say, hey, here, pay this, the system's a little different. So I think that's unfortunate. I think the cryo, what you had said, I think that's like the newest trial that they're trying to push for desmoid tumors. I didn't know anything about it. My experience was, I first I waited for 2, 3 years, I think, before I got diagnosed properly. I had a doctor who just kept saying that it's like veins, it's varicose veins in my
Mm.
um, and I was, my legs were swollen or something like that, and it's from inactivity, which is ridiculous because the more active I was, the more my legs hurt, which made sense.
Yeah.
Um, and then I had X-rays and MRIs. They found the tumor. I went to an oncologist just because here I know it gets kind of roped into cancer, although it's technically not malignant,
Mm.
but they grow. So I don't really believe that desmoids are not malignant in the sense that they're aggressive.
Yeah, and
Like,
very invasive.
right. So I get that they're not cancer, right? Because it's not technically spreading to the other parts of the body. It's not necessarily fatal. Um, However, they told me because it was growing into my nerves and they found it. If it had continued to grow into my nerves, I would have been completely paralyzed on the left half of my body. So, like, it's not fatal, but it's a life altering thing, which I think a lot of people don't realize. So,
Mm.
it's kind of interesting when people would ask me, um, or when I tell people about my tumor, I had initially been like, I'd say I have a tumor, and then people would freak out because,
Yeah.
oh my God, you have cancer. And I was like, wait, no, 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 I don't have cancer. But then, so that was like when I would tell people that I didn't have cancer, that it was like, well, then everything was okay. So it's like, it's kind
Mm.
of a weird in between spot that I'm not
Mm.
sure if you had experienced that as well.
Well, with mine, because mine are abdominal, mine are, and I don't want to disregard or diminish anyone else's desmoids, but when it's in the abdomen and it's pushing against vital organs, if they get to a certain size, they can push. And the way I describe it is, it's not that they invade, but they're like a boa constrictor. They can push and constrict on veins, vital vital what is it, veins or arteries or whatever it is, and they can push on really important things. Like mine got to the stage there um, about a couple of years ago where I was supposed to go on chemotherapy.
I was just mentioning kind of the experience with like if you're telling other people because I felt like that was
Yeah,
nobody knows what it is. I didn't know what it was. Um Second, somebody, well, I remember they said I think it's extra abdominal when it's not in your abdomen. I had no idea what that
mhm,
meant. I thought that meant that it was in. I was like, "Oh my god, I have this whole thing." Like, doctors use just completely doctor lingo and expect you to understand what they're talking
mm.
about.
But then sometimes you go in when you have a rare condition, and sometimes you go into an appointment and you're nearly educating them, and they're sitting there just like, huh? And you're using all these terms and stuff that you've researched for like ages.
Oh, I know. I was actually shocked when I saw a genetic counselor recently. I came in and I was like, well, because I have this desmoid tumor, that means I have this condition, this condition, this condition. They're like, no, it does not mean that. And then they had to, do genetic testing and break things down. But I think it's kind of interesting because I know a lot of doctors kind of look down on people who would either research or some people do end up self-diagnosing themselves. But a lot of the time, the doctors are Googling things while you're in an appointment anyway. So, I
Mhm.
mean, there's so many rare diseases out there. If you're looking at their guidelines, like I know the specific desmoid tumor, like there's desmoid tumor foundations, they use like a specific set of guidelines. So if you read up on all of that, the doctor's going to tell you the exact same thing that the foundations are going to tell you. So
Mhm.
I just find that interesting.
Yeah, I remember I was in when I was in hospital one of the first times, and I'm normally quite a slender girl, but because of medication and also tumors can also cause water retention, not for everyone, but for some.
Mhm.
And I'm swollen like you wouldn't believe. I do get mistaken for being pregnant, and I was smoking at the time, and I had a rollie, or a fag in my hand, and I was outside the hospital smoking, and there was this guy with a big bandage on his head, and he had blood, and he'd obviously banged his head. And he looked at me and he was like, he went to go offer me a cigarette, and he was like, oh, and he saw me rubbing my tummy, and he went, "Are you having your first child?" And I held my tummy, and I went, "No, tumors." And he went, "Oh shit!" And he ended up nearly giving me his whole pack of cigarettes. He's like, "I'm so sorry." I'm so sorry.
I think people that's the issue too, and I mean, like, that's a big thing too. A lot of people will just assume absolutely anything about you, and it's ridiculous. I mean, I've been lucky to the fact that while my leg was and still is a little bit extremely swollen, um, it's my leg, so people aren't necessarily looking at that. If I'm not, but I've noticed specifically because I am on oral chemotherapy, people don't take it seriously unless I think people associate unless you have a shaved head completely, you're
Yeah.
not their idea of chemotherapy. Which also, by the way, people shave their head. It's not their hair doesn't all fall out. Like, I think that was
Mm.
something I didn't know. It's like you have to go and shave your whole head. The hair doesn't fall out that way. But um, I mean, I know what I was gonna say too earlier before I completely sidetracked because this is how I speak. Um, when I got there, I mean, I know they had told me they're like, "Well, you can watch and wait," which I can't believe that's the option they have for you because that's ridiculous. Wait until they invade your organs or nerves or
Mm.
veins. That's kind of ridiculous. They told me I could take, I think, aspirin or naproxen. Yeah, every single day, which don't take those taking like pills like that every single day destroy your stomach lining.
Yeah.
Um, which I mean, I found kind of ridiculous. I did have like a meeting because I have a mutation that would cause colon cancer, which they said that taking a small amount of aspirin can help prevent colon cancer, which I don't believe that. I just had to nod and say, okay, that's kind of crazy to me. It seems really pharmaceutical
Interesting.
influence.
Interesting you say that, because when I first knew that there was something wrong, I was constantly saying, they've left something inside me, because it felt like the shape of a small surgical knife. I was going, they've left something inside me. What do I do? And then it started to really hurt. And everyone else was saying, you need to get this sorted. Something isn't right at all. And my doctor kept telling me that it was just stitching. At first, I was like, okay, maybe it is, because it was very itchy. It was extremely itchy. Um, and he said, "Oh, that the stitches will dissolve." 4 years passed, and he was still saying it was the stitching. And at that stage, another tumor was after growing in my abdomen, and they were getting quite large. And it was literally until my dad came in with me that they were like, "Oh, okay." Whenever I'm on my own or with my mum, no, 9 times out of 10, nothing works unless I start bawling my eyes out, crying because I've had enough.
Yeah. No, I definitely experienced that same thing. I think a lot of the time too. Unfortunately, just the way that doctors can be so dismissive, a lot of the time people are just afraid to even debate them or to get a second
Mm.
opinion. And like I think that's so important to get a second opinion and to stand up for yourself because a lot of people do not act oh my god, advocate for themselves when they're
Mm.
going through anything with a doctor. I have been through a lot of doctors who are either dismissive, just completely rude, just completely not sensitive about anything that's going on. So yeah, they had told me take naproxen for every single day, and like for like a year. Like nothing was helping. The tumor was still growing. So the fact that that's one of the apparently apparently to the Desmoid Foundation, that's one of the treatments is ridiculous because I don't know how that's supposed to help.
Yeah, because when I first, after they discovered I had tumors, I don't know if you have the same medication over there, but they described me sulfidine, and I have F.A.P as well, familial endometriosis, the thing that yeah, I can
Mhm.
never say it, but I also have that as well. I had that before the tumors, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll give you Solpadeine," and it's like, but I have a really bad stomach as well as an eating disorder as well, so my stomach was
Right.
completely ruined. And I was just like, yeah, firstly, I've got a really high tolerance to medication, and also my stomach is already extremely sensitive to tablets. Um, and it's also not, it's ruining my stomach, and it's not doing anything for me. It's creating a lot of gas in my stomach, and it really hurts. And they were like, no, 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 because I was only like 18, 19. I think they presumed I was just too young for and to try any other medications. And then then my GP ended up putting me on Tylex and Oxynorm, all these medications that make you throw up like every 2 seconds. You cannot eat anything or drink anything, it'll just come up. And I'm sitting there going, why is it the tablets they give you? It might help one thing if it helps anything at all, but it'll give you 10 other problems. And I went into A&E, but maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, and I, there's no medication that works for me. I'm still trial and error at the moment, and I was in bits. I was having a really, really bad flare for months, and I just couldn't. I could barely walk, and I was like, I thought something has to be done. So I went in. They didn't even read my report, because they obviously didn't, because one of the nurses who was really kind gave me the medication that I needed, which is intravenous medication. It was Buscopan, and which is a muscle relaxant, and paracetamol, because they kind of coincide with each other. You need a painkiller with a muscle relaxant for it
Right.
to all gel together, and that really works for me. Um, and she gave that to me, and then all of a sudden, the doctor that's dealing with me in the emergency gave me this one tablet, and she didn't say what it was. And I said it to her, I was like, look, I can't take tablets. I can't take them. They really hurt my stomach. This is why I'm here. And she literally looked at the ground and looked at me and went, be optimistic, and handed me the tablet. I know. No, Irish healthcare system and the hospital is just, it's just so bad, so bad. And I was on the phone with my partner the whole time, and there was people there in worse conditions than I were, that were like nearly pumping blood, and they were just seeing, they have all these like all these little section things with all boarded off as a little bed, and it was completely all full with like easily 40 or more people waiting in lines. And by the time I got in, I was there in the morning at around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I didn't get seen and put into one of the sections for, I think, must have been about maybe 3 o'clock. And they literally just gave me the tablet just to see how I'd react, to see if I was telling the truth. And I was in tears. I was just absolutely bawling, crying. And even the two younger nurses, that were both female, were like, "Are they playing ball with you? If you ever need anything, just let us know." And they were like really being on the down low. And but the older doctors, they were just completely just
They don't believe anything. That's the
no.
thing. It's ridiculous. Like, people don't understand, if you say you have a reaction to something, you have a reaction to something. And I don't understand, like, you need to prove it. I've noticed that before with allergies and stuff like that, or maybe not reacting well to certain things. Um, but it's kind of funny that you mentioned that you would get medication for one thing and it's supposed to cure something, but then it causes all these other symptoms. That's essentially chemotherapy, and why I'm over it. Like, this is one of the options. They basically said I could sit and wait. I could take naproxen or Advil every single day.
Mm,
Um, they said surgery is not worth it because they'll all grow back.
mm,
But for me, it's one, or they would cause, if you grow, it's basically, these tumors are like hydras. So if you take one
mm.
out, it'll grow multiple back.
Japanese nutweed.
Yeah, not great. Um,
No.
they said something about hormonal therapy, which would cause me, somebody in her early 20s, to go into menopause, which would not be good. Um, and then chemotherapy, either pill or radiation. So I feel like they didn't really disclose very specifically that the pill initially that I was prescribed with was a chemotherapy pill. It was, they said this is a treatment. Um, it's not radiation. So most of the time people associate chemo with radiation. Um, they said this new medication they're using, and they showed me this, they have all these handouts and stuff like that. Um, and I don't think it was until I Googled the medication that this is a chemotherapy pill, and it's predominantly used to treat like blood cancer and stuff like that in children, because they don't want to put children through literal radiation. Um, so for it being a less harsh version of chemo, I can never imagine what radiation, or what I'm like, I think about a half dose of what somebody with cancer would take, what that would be like, because literally, I can't tell if it's helping at all. I've been on it for 2 years, the tumors barely shrunk,
Mm.
so, and it's just like every single day, I'm kind of contemplating, well, if I just stopped taking this, I don't know what would be worse. Like, I don't know if losing complete mobility in my leg would be worse than, you're constantly throwing up, you're constantly
Mm.
going to the bathroom, you can't eat anything. um, I lost 2/3 of my hair. Just so much of that stuff. I mean, there's tons of other symptoms that
Mm.
they don't even disclose. That's the other thing, they don't disclose like anything that
Mm.
happens, and I'm just like, I don't know. So I feel a little thankful that there's new treatments, but at the same time, I I don't know if, when I have a new oncologist, if they're going to suggest the same things, or if they're going to be like, either you just stick with chemotherapy, or you just take aspirin and deal with it. Um, so I'm just like, I just want it gone at this point, and I feel like that's the biggest thing with these desmoid tumors, is that they just don't go away. Like, no matter
Mm.
what you do, they don't go.
They can, but they still don't know what makes them do it. Some say it could be diet, like an alkaline diet is supposed to be very, very good, or a vegan diet, basically non-acidic foods, all that kind of stuff. But it can help shrink them, but it's kind of 50-50. You can go either way. They're so complex. But to what you said about the tablets and stuff, the same time they gave me the tablet to go home with, and I said, look, I can't handle tablets. So they gave me this tablet, Oxyfab or Oxytab or something fab anyway, and it was supposed to coat the lining of my stomach, but that in itself is harmful for your stomach. And I took it anyway, and I took it for about a week. And literally within the first day, I was like an antichrist. I was so angry. I couldn't. I just not no matter what anyone said or did, or what I said or did, I was constantly angry, and I didn't know why. And I couldn't eat. I thought I was having a relapse of my eating disorder. I couldn't eat. And then my partner said, right, well, look at the side effects. One of the side effects was could give you polyps in the colon. I have FAP. The other one was could decrease in appetite, depression, and I think maybe suicidal thoughts or something like that. And it's like, why are you giving someone that has mental health issues, an eating disorder, and it has already a polyp disorder? Sometimes I wonder how these people actually they did whatever amount of time in college, and they have a big certificate that says, "Oh, I'm this," and they,
I just think, like, it's kind of, I mean, I try to, like, for me, I'm already on the absolute worst medication you could probably give yourself, because it just kills everything in its path.
yeah.
But for the most part, like, other than that, I try to go absolute lengths without taking a lot of medications. Um, like, I just think that a lot of these medications don't help the way that natural remedies do. Like, That's the whole thing because they have so
Mm,
many other side effects. Like that would be like, so I stopped taking Tylenol, even though if I have a really, really bad headache, that's what helps because it destroys your stomach. Like it completely can rot the lining of it. It's just all of these medications have so many bad side effects. I just don't think they're worth it.
mm. Like you said with the natural remedies, like I'm currently on CBD. I don't know what the laws are like in New York, but here, CBD products with 0.2 THC is allowed, but anything more than 0.0 or 0.2% THC, and it's you can't have.
Right.
But there is currently a trial treatment for certain issues, like I think MRSI or MRS, and nausea with chemotherapy or something. There's like three, but you can now since June go and try out some herb. But I'm currently on the legal stuff at the moment. I couldn't do the other stuff anyway. I wouldn't be sat here doing this right now if I didn't have my CBD, because my anxiety is just like. But also with the pain, like the painkillers I'm on now, yes, they are good for the not bad pain, like for the kind of in between pain. But as soon as my pain goes up, I might as well not be taking it. But as soon as I have a smoke of my CBD or I have the oil, it kind of tops it up a bit.
Hmm.
So, I would highly, highly recommend for people with desmoid tumors to try CBD. There's many different forms. You can vape it, you can smoke it, you can you even have oil roll-ons that you can roll on yourself.
Hmm. I used to use CBD. So I'm actually back in Florida. I think within the United States, CBD is legal everywhere because if it has THC at all, it's a very small amount. Um, Actually, in New York, they did just pass not even medicinal but recreational marijuana, so that's all good there. Florida does have medicinal marijuana as well. Um, I tell my doctor I use medicinal. Um, I'm like, "Yeah, medicinal." Um, I did use CBD though. I used to get oils and just mix it in with, coffee because I don't like to smoke, I don't like to do anything like that. It has to be mixed into food or drink with me, and I
Mm,
drink coffee all the time. But I felt like for nausea, it works very well. I didn't
mm,
find that it worked well for my other symptoms, but I do think if you use like a roll-on or a targeted cream, that definitely helps. I feel like CBD balms and creams work better than like I don't know if you guys have Tiger Balm, which is like an
yeah.
yeah, it works better than Tiger Balm. I've realized like it really relaxes a lot better. But if you're like extremely nauseous, like especially chemo, I would 100% just of like you got to go with the real thing. At that point, if it's really really bad, it can I feel like it masks a little bit of nausea. But if you're like really 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 sick, you got to go for the real thing. But
Mm,
luckily in the US it's mostly getting legalized everywhere. It really depends on the state because our country is really big and
mm,
everybody has their own opinions about it. And I think everyone's a little um, kind of iffy about it. I think because of how um, medicine heavy we are,
mm,
it definitely doesn't help until the pharmaceutical
mm,
companies realize that they can have dispensaries and then start getting money off of that too. Then
mm.
they'll get behind that. But
Like it would be a serious money rocket. Like that's why I really just want to shake the Irish government and be like, why? It's helping so many people with epilepsy, tumors, you name it. It's taking the edge off to the point where we might actually be able to get up and do something.
right,
Um, or be it doing the dishes or actually going to the shop to get something without feeling like we're going to die. you know?
right. I think people just have when it comes to that especially they have the preconceived notion of the 60s reefer madness and they don't realize that it can really help a multitude of things. And that's why for me, I'm like completely um, pro a lot of herbal remedies because I felt that
Mm.
they helped much better. I was prescribed with anti-nausea tablets that apparently they give pregnant women. They don't work. I'm like, this is basically, I felt like I was eating some Tums and I could eat like 10 Tums or little antacid tablets and it wouldn't affect me at all. So just think it just so doesn't work. Like I understand obviously with pregnant women, they have to take that because they can't really they can't take that.
Out of out of curiosity, are you very nauseous because of the medication you're on, or would you be nauseous anyway, like with having a tumor?
Mostly, I've noticed symptom-wise, from the tumor, most of it is just completely located in the leg. So all of that stuff is just based on the leg. I think my biggest symptoms from the tumor specifically, because I've realized most of my symptoms that I have now and my biggest complaints are medication. They're not the tumor. So I think they did work into shrinking it a bit, um, but mostly it was the inability to walk very far. I do still kind of have a limp, so I
Mm,
can't do that much physical activity. Um, I did notice, like, I went to a theme park the other day,
mm,
and places I would have been able to go all day from morning to night before, um, I have to after, like, an hour of walking or standing, I have to sit down for at least 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and even when I'm walking around, it's painful, so, um, which is I noticed more so radiating pain. It would go up my body a little bit, but I didn't really notice anything from nausea. No,
mhm.
luckily I don't. Mine aren't in the stomach.
Yeah, no, because I've been limping. I've had a really bad limp for, I'd say, maybe close to a year, maybe more. And it kind of depends on the pain, but I normally check my whole body anyway. Um, because with the situation, they can spread, they can multiply, and you never know. So always, I'd say maybe once every 2 weeks, I tend to check. And I just checked my leg the other day, and I was like, okay, I can feel a lump. I can actually kind of feel it's almost like it kind of goes lump and then in and then lump again, just kind of above my knees, kind of mid thigh.
Mhm.
And I said it to him. I said, "Oh, can you just double check to see if I'm not just overwhelmed with the third lump?" Um, and she said, "Yeah, no, I can feel something." So I don't know if it's definitely a tumor, but I know that I've been limping, and I can kind of relate to some of the things you're saying with your tumor, even though yours is located differently on the leg. But yeah, might have to start using a crutch soon, which is kind
Oh,
of annoying.
no, I know. Please, hopefully they get to check that out, and I hope that they can start. It's great that you have CBD over there to manage the pain, but I hope that Ireland really gets going with the different treatments
Mm,
that there are. I know it's a rare disease, and I know a lot of the time we're treated either like as we're not important or we're lumped into cancer treatment. But like, I hope that they can take people seriously and start to realize like this is a big deal and get it going so that you
mm,
can get rid of the tumors, not just treat the pain that the tumors are causing. People need to realize that it's a serious thing, serious disorders that cause this, and do some research because that's what's really annoying. I love to be able to be here and explain, definitely talk to you too to get your perspective of this. Um, but at the same time, I would really appreciate if I tell people something, they can go look it up on their own. I don't have to
mm,
explain everything myself, which I think people don't want to do. Um, because then if I sit and I explain everything, it comes off as I'm complaining, which people then don't
mm.
like when women complain about stuff.
Or over dramatizing.
Mhm. So that's the biggest thing I've noticed. But I do have to unfortunately go to work, so I will have to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for talking to me today and talking about this. horrible disease that hopefully we can
Mm.
get done,
Get
kicked in
started.
the butt.
Thank you for having me, darling.
Of course. Do you want I can share oh, my cat's back. I can share your Instagram or anything like that if you would like,
Yeah,
if you wanna go
perfect.
ahead and, so I'll go ahead and put it on the screen when I do edit, and then I'll put it in the comments if anybody wants to reach out to you specifically to talk further about this. Because I know, obviously, you reached out after my video, and I did have other people reach out, so, I think it's a great network of people we can definitely help create to
Mm.
for other people to talk to go through this.
Okay. Cool, cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And so I will see you. Hopefully, I'll talk to you again. This was nice. It was nice meeting you and talking to you for the first time. But I hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully, it's not as painful as some of the other days. But um, please take care of yourself.
And you too. And it's so good to actually finally talk to someone that is going through what I'm going through. You're actually the first desmoid patient I've actually talked to. I've talked to a few on this group. I don't know if you're on the same desmoid group.
No, not on any groups. No.
And there's a Desmoid Ireland group, and then there's a Desmoid group. I think it's actually an American group, but everyone with desmoids around the world goes to that group. And it's great for information because people always ask questions and that jazz.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, and I'll definitely join and then put that also just in the description in case anybody wants to join that as well. All right. Bye.
Bye, bye, love.